Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to look at all the sensors that you're going to code over the next course of the week. And it all starts with this guy here. This is called a Cortex. It's kind of the brain of the whole operation that we have. There's an on-off switch on the front where it says power. That's where you plug your battery in. This guy costs 250 bucks. So if I need to replace him, that's a lot of money. So please be careful with these. No throwing them across the room, sliding them on the floor. Don't use them as a doorstop or anything like that. Okay, so we got to be careful with these. On the top, you'll see that there's a bunch of openings here. This is where all our sensors go. On the right-hand side there, it says motor. That's where we plug in motors. On the other side, where it says digital and analog, that's where we put in some of our sensors. All right, so let's look at what we got. This is a motor. Two gold bronze things on the end. That's where we put the screws in there. We attach it to objects. And on the left-hand side, that round chrome or silver looking part, that's where we put an axle, and that's the part that turns when we power it. Okay, so that's a motor. These are LEDs. They're lights. They come in some different varieties. There's red, green, yellow. Over here, bump switch. This is the most common switch that we use. If we take a look at one singular one, you'll see that it is just round. It's like a push button. It's like an easy button. On the back of it actually says bumper switch, so if you forget what they are, just look on the bottom of that. And then at the opposite end, there's a couple of pins, and this is what plugs into the Cortex. Okay, the black wire goes on the Cortex by the side by the numbers, then it plugs in. Okay, so one, bump switch. That's a digital switch. Next, we have limit switches. This is also a digital switch. It works the same way as a bump switch, but it doesn't have a button. It has this thing on the end. You press it, and that's what activates it. Again, on the back, it says limit switch. So if you don't know what it is, check the back. Now we have a bump switch and a limit switch. Moving on to analog switches. The first one we have is called a line tracker. Sometimes it's called a line follower, line tracker. It's kind of a confusing name. All it really is a light sensor. So the black spot on the top of it, that rectangle, senses light in the room, and then you can program it so that when it's dark something turns on, or when it's light something turns on. That's all up to you. Okay, so line tracker. And the last one we have is called a potentiometer. And a potentiometer is a dial. It's another type of analog switch. It says right there, potentiometer. The two crescent shaped parts of this on the side is where we can put screws through it and attach it to whatever we build. And then the white little rectangular thing in the center is where an axle goes through. This does not power anything. It doesn't turn anything. But when you turn it, it registers a number, and you can control it as a sensor. Think of it as like a volume dial from 0 to 10, and as you turn it, it changes that number. Okay? This is a very sensitive little sensor here. Don't turn it all the way around. It should go to the right and stop, and should go to the left and stop, but don't keep spinning it around and around, or it's going to break the little mechanism on the inside of this. Okay? That's a potentiometer. So, there you go. We've got a bunch of different kinds of sensors, and over the next week, we are going to learn how to code them. Good luck.